Hey guys, this is QXC. Today I'm going to be talking about how to micro your units. For those of you who don't know, micro is the term used in StarCraft to refer to how a player controls their units. It goes from anything to positioning, to kind of dancing in and out of battle, to reduce the amount of damage your units are taking, and then to animation canceling. Animation canceling is basically a lot of units will have some attack animation, and if you allow them to do the whole animation before issuing an order, they end up sitting there for much longer than they need to. Most units you can cut the animation short, and so you can get what's effectively like a moving shot. The projectile or the attack will take place, the damage will be done, and then you can move the unit right away, and that'll help a lot with your positioning. And so what I did was I opened up some maps that I had made previously. We're going to be looking at Banshee versus Marine micro, Hellion versus Zergling micro, Reaper versus Zergling, and Marauder versus Roach. And you're going to see how I'm canceling the animation and the kind of things you want to be doing to get the most out of your units. You want to make them, this is basically a way to increase the effectiveness of the units that you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and start the first. So we're going to take a look first at Banshee versus Marine micro. The whole key that you're trying to do is to make the Banshee attack with its 6 range outside of the Marine's 5 range. The range just refers to the number of tiles between where the unit is and what it can deal damage to. And so the Banshees have one more range than the Marines. So ideally you start and finish the attack animation for the Banshee outside of the Marines' range. So what you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm keeping the Banshees as far away as I can while still in attack range, and then I'm issuing an attack move on the ground in front of my Banshee. And what that'll do is it'll order it to kind of spin around real quick and fire off a missile. And now you'll see here what I can do. There's another way to do it where you order the attack animation or the attack order in between the Banshee and the Marine. But what that has the effect of doing, you can see it right here, is if the Banshee's not in range, the Banshee will kind of run too close to the Marine. Whereas if the Banshee's not in range and you're issuing the attack move on the other side away from the Marine, then it tends to kind of spin around, but it doesn't actually get too close in range. And so the key here, you get close enough to the Marine when they spawn. So you get close enough to the Marine, and then you issue the attack order on the ground in front of the Banshee. And the moment it spins around to fire, you issue a move command away from the Marine. And so this is designed to minimize the amount of time that your Banshee is actually in range, and to make it so you can kind of attack while moving. The Banshees have a little more delay than a lot of units that can do this kind of thing. You'll see sometimes I kind of go off screen. That's just, when you're doing this, it's pretty hard to move your mouse to keep the Banshee always centered. But I know, like, I can see the shadow, I know where the unit is, so I know how I should issue my orders in relation to that. Another thing is, if you get too close to the Marines, it can be kind of tricky to run straight back at them. So what you can do is kind of cut a corner to either increase, well, usually just to decrease your distance to them. So here we have Hellion versus Zergling micro. One thing you'll notice, we'll get to it in a sec, is if the Zerglings don't have speed, you can kill an infinite number of them. It's really not a problem. And so here you can see the same thing going on with the Banshees. The moment the attack animation is finished, you want to order a move command so that you can get your Hellions going again. Hellions are super strong against Zerglings as long as they don't actually have to fight them straight on. Being able to kite the Zerglings, and when I say kite, I mean basically running around the Zerglings, dealing damage, while the Zerglings can't get close enough to deal damage. being able to kite the Zerglings is really what makes the Hellions so good. Like, yeah, they've got good splash damage and all, but they're not super cost effective unless you're doing stuff like this. So you can see there, I kind of move one of my Hellions out of the way. Sometimes if you have one that's really low, and you know the Zerg player is going to be targeting it, which they should, it'll help you just move that one Hellion away from the group. Okay. Just give you another example here. This is to show what happens if you never attack. The speedlings will start to deal damage to you, and so it doesn't make any sense. Like, eventually you're going to bleed out if you don't kill the speedlings. And so, especially, like, you can see there, if I wasn't playing against the AI, the speedlings would have surrounded my Hellions, no problem. And so it really makes sense. You always want to be dealing damage to the speedlings. And so here you see what happens if I don't micro the Hellions at all. Their cost effectiveness goes way down. It's like 8 speedlings killed 4 Hellions, or however many that was, whereas before I killed probably 30 or 40. So here we go. Attack, move, attack, move. Just keep doing that. Always staying out of distance. If you practice this kind of thing, you'll get the timing down of when your units are actually ready to move. The other thing that you want to be sure you're doing is you don't want to stop to attack until the attack cooldown has gone off. What I mean by that is the Hellion attack takes so much time before it's ready to be used again. And so if you attack and move, and then you stop and try and attack before that time has run out, your Hellions will sit there taking damage but not actually dealing any because they're not ready to attack yet. And so you want to get comfortable with how long the attack actually takes to go off. And so here you'll see that's the time between each attack. And so you want to time each of your stops to be roughly around that speed. So here we go with Marauder versus Roach. So real easy one here. Just 4 roaches. And you can see how quickly the Marauders can take care of this. No problem, really. So we're going to up the ante, increase the number of units that are spawned. And so the same idea applies here. The roaches have less range than the Marauders. And so you always want to stay out of range, and then with the concussive shells upgrade, which slows the units that the Marauders are attacking, it makes it even easier to continue to kite the roaches. And so definitely maintain the attack animation canceling. The Marauders will sit there a lot longer if you let them, and you can see the large number of orders I'm issuing right now. This is partly because I like clicking a lot, but it's also so I have a better chance of hitting the timing of when the Marauders are actually ready to move again. And then you get to a point where you can't really do anything. The roaches will bleed you out, similar to the Hellions and the speedlings. You can't just run away. Here we go. Same thing. Roaches get close. And now I'm just going to show you how the bleed out. When I say bleed out, I just mean the damage you're going to take if you don't deal damage. There's some unit combinations, like Hellions can run around Zerglings forever and never take damage, but Speedlings will deal damage. Roaches running after Marauders, the Marauders will take damage. So there you saw my Marauders were taking damage as they were running away. And now what we're going to do is I want to show you how effective the Marauders are if I don't do any micro. And you notice just before this I was able to kill this first wave, losing maybe 1 Marauder. And if I don't control my units at all, I lose all but 2. It's a big difference. The micro will really affect how well your units do in battles, particularly small battles. If I had 30 or 40 marauders and like tanks and all that kind of stuff, this becomes a lot harder. The key to doing this is basically the moment the marauders fire that missile, you want to order a move command. And that'll get you the optimal timing, roughly. And then you'll start to get a feel for it, and it'll become more natural the more you do it. It's kind of fun to take the marauders out and just see how close you can make the timing, and then what you'll see is there'll be times where you overshoot it and your marauders end up spinning around taking their shot, and then they're really slow to move again because you waited too long. And then there'll be some times where the marauder turns halfway around, doesn't actually fire, and then so here we go. That's how, like I mentioned with the Banshees and the Reapers, you want to only be attacking when your attack animation or your attack cooldown is ready. So that was an example of how long it takes Marauders to actually refresh their attack. So here we have Reapers versus Zerglings, and the cool thing about this is once you get a couple of Reapers, you can basically kill as many Zerglings as you want, depending on how they're being controlled. The thing that happens is the AI tends to target the closest Zergling, and so in that brief moment that you turn around, you kill the closest Zergling, and the next closest one has to catch up a little bit. And so there's one weird thing about the Reapers is since they actually fire twice, one with each hand, you can change the amount of delay based on how many shots you let them take off. If you let them only take the first shot, it's really, really fast. If you let them take both, it's a little different. You can see there I made a little error. I killed one of my Reapers. Okay, so now you can see Reapers with the speed upgrade, no problem against Zerglings. You literally can kill as many as you want, and you'll never take damage. Now, speed Reapers against Speedlings. Speedling refer to Zerglings with the movement speed upgrade. This is a little tougher. You saw before with non-speed versus non-speed, I killed probably 4 or 5 waves, no problem. The Reapers become much less efficient when the Zerglings have the speed upgrade. There you can see the delay between the attack animation on the Reaper. Again, you only want to be stopping and turning when they're ready to attack. So even though this is something funny about the map, even though the Zerglings have wings right now, they don't actually have the speed upgrade. You can see they're not very fast. And so again, I want to show you what happens if the Reapers just run away from the Zerglings, and they're basically the same speed when neither has the upgrade. And so you can pretty much run away without too many problems. Okay, now I'm going to show you what happens when you don't use micro with your Reapers. Instead of being able to kill 50 or 60 Zerglings, you kill like 7. So that's it. That's my guide to microing your units a little bit better. The key things are to cancel the attack animation. Always be able to try and do damage without taking damage. That's the biggest thing to winning battles. If you do damage and they don't deal damage back, you can't lose. Your units will never die. And so microing is all about putting your units in a position where they can deal damage and not take it. And a big part of that is learning when you can cancel the animation of a attack to keep the units on the move, whether it's a Marauder, a Banshee, Reaper, or anything else. Basically, pretty much every unit in the game has some kind of attack animation canceling you can do to keep them moving while dealing damage. This has been QXC talking about microing. Thanks for tuning in.